It's time again for the Insiders with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.
Hi, I'm Chuck Chvala, former Senate Majority Leader.
And I'm Scott Jensen, former Assembly Speaker.
We're the Insiders. So, Scott, the most famous cheesehead this year has got to be Elon Musk, making promises about giving out money. And it sounded like a trade for votes, but maybe it wasn't, because it was actually just saying that you support this, or you're going to take a picture of someone with you and do that. And maybe you just say that you want to get rid of, activist judges. What's your take on the Elon experience, and how does he, tell me, who wore it best? Was it Elon Musk, or was it convention delegates from both parties who wore cheeseheads at their conventions?
Well, it didn't look right on him. I think he looks better in a cowboy hat now that he's a Texan. But I'll say this: Elon Musk can afford really good lawyers, and I'm guessing even though he might have gotten a little out ahead of them, they reeled him back in. I don't think there's anything in here that that Attorney General Call or anyone else can follow up on with regards to a lawsuit. I think we might all be a little surprised that you could do some of this stuff, and maybe the legislature might decide to sort of outlaw some of that. But the efforts by out-of-state billionaires, whether it was Reid Hoffman or George Soros or Elon Musk, actually helped increase the turnout here in Wisconsin. I mean, this was an extraordinary turnout on both sides. And while the $1 million checks, I don't think anyone will ever do it again, because I doubt that made a single person turn out to vote in the most recent Supreme Court election. But that Supreme Court election was the highest turnout in recent times, clearly. And the November election was the highest turnout in the nation. So a lot of these smaller tactics, the door-to-door work, the mail, the digital campaigns, the neighbor-to-neighbor sort of things that these out-of-state people paid for, clearly have been increasing the turnout in Wisconsin. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. More people voting, as long as they're informed, is a good idea.
Well, I have a slightly different take, as you can imagine. I don't think we need to spend more than $100 million to decide our Supreme Court elections in the spring. And the problem is that, as Scott points out very directly, that higher turnout came at the price of having billionaires really having a big say in our elections. And that's not good. And that was the concern, and is the concern ever since Citizens United and before that, that will speech equal money? And that's really essentially where we're at now, is that you get to speak more loudly. Now, fortunately, Democrats, this was certainly not the case in my day. We get outspent 3 or 4 to 1 and had to find a way to just be a little more efficient. But now it looks like it's fairly even. But I don't think that'll last.
I think the Democrats had more money, no doubt.
Okay. I think that what's going to happen here is that over time, some party is going to have to say, I think that Elon Musk, here's the biggest takeaway, and the not so obvious takeaway from this. I think that Elon Musk in this election with the cheesehead and his money, 20-some million dollars, and all of the oligarchs, the techno oligarchs, the billionaires standing next to Donald Trump at his inauguration, tells me that one of the parties is going to have to say enough. It is time for the wealthy to be taxed on their wealth and on their income, proportionate to what they are getting from our society. And that is going to mean that somebody's going to have to take it. And I think once that happens, whichever party takes that position will have less money. And then the question will be, will people be able to see through the fog and haze and still vote against the oligarchs? I think that's where we're headed as a country. That's the biggest takeaway for me. And I think, frankly, the bad part for the oligarchs is that of all of the spokespeople they could have put forward for themselves, Elon is the ugliest and the most partisan and the least appealing. I think most people around the Democratic Party say, if there's another special election in a special state, please send Elon. Please send Elon. In fact, if he didn't have so much money, we'd pay for his plane ticket to go. He's the worst oligarch to send. That's my big takeaway. What he did with the dollars and cents, it was, I guess, just on this side of the law. Fine. Maybe we can do something about that. Fine. But the bigger takeaway, I think the oligarchs now have a target on their back, And I think that they will be paying the price on this over time. People do not like what they're doing, and they have now aligned themselves with Donald Trump. I think the Republicans have a tiger by the tail.
Well, I think you had it right when you said that, the Democrats' goal in that election was to nationalize the election and to talk about things like Donald Trump and abortion. And Elon Musk helped them achieve that
Yes.
goal, which was not helpful for the conservative candidate in the race. He wanted to talk about law and order. And with Elon around, that subject just got pushed to the side in the final couple of weeks of the race. So he's the one who got the attention when the attention should have been on the conservative candidate for Supreme Court.
And unfortunately, he was not smart when he went and actually physically appeared with Elon. That's not a smart move on his part as well.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you next
See you
week.
next time.
You've been listening to The Insider with Chuck Chvala and Scott Jensen, sponsored by the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Tommy G. Thompson Center on Public Leadership.